of Coffee and a Good Vibe. We are in New York City with the legend Dan Churchill. Guys, if you don't know Dan Churchill, you will after this podcast, but you literally do it all. And once you hear his voice, you're going to die. Just talk because he's Australian.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's such a pleasure to have you.
Oh my God, that was so cliche. Mate, welcome to my kitchen, my studio
Thank
kitchen. Pleasure to have you. It was so cool to have you reach out. I think it was Marcel who connected us, right?
Yeah, Instagram.
Shout out to Marcel.
Yeah, he's on the podcast. I'll have his episode.
Okay. Is that before mine?
He's coming because we already did that.
Yeah. So so you guys obviously know Marcel now. So
yes.
Marcel connected us. We're now in my studio kitchen in New York City, and I have the pleasure of holding a microphone like we're about to sing karaoke.
Yeah, it's good vibes.
Great vibes.
Good vibes.
Coffee and I just had a coffee, so it's good vibes and coffee.
We love this because in New York, I know you're from Australia, but in New York, you guys drink coffee. Like you guys are not afraid to have multiple coffees a day.
100%. What do you drink in LA? What is it?
I drink coffee, but
Okay.
a lot of people, we have matcha companies on this podcast. Matcha vibes.
Matcha vibes, tea vibes.
It should be like matcha and a good vibe.
That stuff.
Totally.
Do you wear serious question? Do you wear a brim hat after like 7 or 8 p.m.?
No, I do not.
Okay. I walked into Soho House the other day and I saw people wearing it at the dinner table. I'm like, if that was me back in the day, my dad would have just smacked me across the face wearing a hat
Which
at the table.
Soho House?
It was meatpacking.
I was just there yesterday.
Damn it. We missed out on the half price Monday
missed
together. But yeah, now apparently it's real trendy to wear a hat. Actually, hat looks really good, so I'm all about it. But anyway, that's a very much an LA vibe to me, seeing that kind of stuff. So I put tea, matcha, kombucha, and also
it's so funny, like what people think of people in LA.
Yeah, good people.
And then
just chilled.
Yeah, I like the East Coast vibe. But you're from Australia, from New York. Take us back. We're going to go in on this journey, but give the people a little background on Dan. You have so many endeavors, like this restaurant, Epic Table podcast, shameless plug. Nice. You guys got to listen to it.
Thank you so much.
Like you do all the things. So give us a little background on your journey to where you are now.
Should I make it like a story arc?
Yeah.
Like, okay. Well, once upon a time, there was a place called the Northern Beaches of Sydney where a middle child from the Churchill family developed his understanding of living just an active lifestyle. Now, I always say this, like being in the middle of 3 boys, activity was never something that you had to worry about because you're always just running amok with each other, right? But also just like being amongst the beach, the water, you always want to be outdoors apart from like a period of just video gaming as young teenagers do. But ultimately, like I loved that side of things. I did not know completely what I wanted to do when I finished high school. And so I kind of thought about one thing I've always learned from mum and dad was do what you love. And so I kind of just took that and said, well, I love sport. Like I wanted to play for my country in some sort of sport. So I went and did essentially went and did sport and exercise management as an undergraduate degree at the University of Technology, Sydney. And whilst I was doing that, I was learning all about, the human body. I learned how to, break down not just bones, but, particular processes on the bones. I learned how we perform and move. And I also learned a bit about business in that degree as well. But it was through that I was like, okay, well, my love, and this is like, I always kind of do a bit of a detailed analysis of this story because I think people can relate to the following your like passion kind of thing. So I was in that moment going, okay, well, this is really cool. I've got a nice roundabout understanding of the human body and business, but I really want to know more about the human body. And that's even something today I was telling you, like I started my content creation when I was 21. And even to this day, I'm still looking up articles on human performance. So effectively from that, I went and did a master's degree in exercise science. I was fortunate to get into, with my grades, to get into Edith Cowan University and do a 2-year degree there. And so after that, I became a master's, a postgraduate individual with this exercise science, strength conditioning background. Wow. Throughout all this though, I was cooking. I was cooking at home. I was cooking for my brothers. I was cooking for my mum.
I love that. Where did that stem from?
Well, see, this is the thing.
Chef parent?
I don't have chef parents. Mum honestly did it because she had to look after 3 grown boys. Dad was a bit more adventurous with his cooking and still is to this day. Like he's the kind of guy that would pull out a recipe out of a newspaper and stack it in a folder, and I can still picture the stack of folders of recipes right now that Dad still has. And he would change that up every now and then. But I guess the honest truth is that when I was growing up, my family, the one thing we used to do as a family consistently was watch this program on ABC in Australia. And it was like this guy called Jamie Oliver cooking like so passionately, and using his hands, and he's saying words like pucker, and that's like wicked, and like all this British like things. And anyway, he just loved food.
Yeah.
And I always saw chefs as these people that were like tall, white hat, kind of big overgrown like chef coat individuals, and that was awesome. But you never see these like rock star chefs. And so when I was like around 15, 16, where I could have left school and done that degree of just going straight to culinary school, the equivalent, I kind of looked into it. And at the time, the expectation of a chef when you're starting out is you peel broad beans for 90 hours a week, which is fine if you want to be going the traditional route of like classic French cookery, where it's kind of like a Mr. Miyagi thing of, you peel broad beans, but you realize you're actually, realizing something about yourself. And I was like, I'm too creative just to do that. So I didn't actually initially pursue chef world because of that. But after realizing that, I love my passion for human performance and how the body moves and how our gut works, but I loved cooking for my family. I loved it. I loved cooking for my friends. My mates loved it. They were getting into it. And so when I was working with athletes through my master's degree, I got to work with teams as a strength conditioning coach. They also loved it. They loved to learn more about it. They didn't know what nutritionists were saying when they were telling them what to eat, but they knew what I was talking about with food. And they didn't realize it, but the food that I was helping them cook were the ones that the nutritionist wanted them to have. And so essentially then I just created a recipe book. That recipe book called was Dude Food. Dude Food sold really well, self-published that. Off the back of that, I did a second book. That sold really well. I started to do TV. I started to build a brand. And through consistency and doing all that, in a nutshell, combine that like initial launch phase, I went from being a strength conditioning coach by day to working in kitchens at nighttime because I had to be chef trained to an extent. But I did it across, 8 to 12 different restaurants over the course of that to truly understand different cuisines and cookery. And so that was pretty cool. And then, eventually after enough, profile, I got recognized in America. And so then that's what we were just talking about.
I was going to ask.
How did this all happen? How did we get to the US? And you were like,
that's the question everyone else wants to know too.
How'd you do it? Well, you can empathize with this, mate. Like
so much.
And I actually don't think I truly at the time recognized the difficulty in getting a visa to come to this country, the visa that we need, like you and I need
to be entrepreneurs. Because like you can come here and work for a company and they can sponsor it. And like there's opportunities like that, but you're under someone else's wing and timeline and everything. 100%.
And so like,
and I'm sure you got dangled, or there was even opportunities like that because you have all these accolades. But for Dan, which one of my questions here, it's like your legacy, your purpose. You can't have that. You gotta control the visa almost to like do whatever you want. Have that freedom.
It's so tough. Like the visa you're on, like you've managed to do it in a way that makes sense and allows you to do what you can do. Right? Imagine there's another visa that only Australians actually have access to called the E3 visa.
Yes.
Have you heard about that one?
Yes. Yeah. I know all the visas because and then also like when you're in that journey, the universe just brings you people who are also in that journey. Yeah. So when I was in LA, I was meeting a lot of people going through it. So you just educate yourself. You're actually like a legal counsel on immigration. You know what I need on the podcast? An affiliate deal for visas. I've just spoken to my immigration lawyer about 2 hours ago. Give me a code, buddy. Kind of swipe up link. But no, it's like the E3 visa is a specific visa, not to get too dialed into this, but Australians are only the fortunate ones to get this. But if you get that, you have to work for only one company. So the E3 visa only allows you to work for one company. Forever, the whole visa? Just for the 2-year visa you have it on, then you can reapply for it. But like that would be me saying, it's like, our business, like it's you getting one account or one opportunity and then you cannot work with anyone else. And it's like, well, that's defeats the purpose of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I was going for this visa, this O1 visa.
and it's actually, for those listening in, it sounds so douchey, but it's the brief, and you rock up to your interview and they go, "Why are you an alien of extraordinary ability?" And it's like, oh, okay, because the two brothers on my shoulder are just throwing things at me, just going, "Can't believe you're saying that you're an alien of extraordinary." Like, firstly, you're an alien, whatever. Anyway, so you have this in the back of your mind, you're already playing yourself down. But effectively, I had to provide all these contracts that I had coming over here. I had to showcase that I had a TV deal, a book deal. I had a place to live. I had media generating enough of my profile to say that I was a special alien. So, and then, I remember I was in Byron Bay shooting the final episode for a series. I was down there, and my manager at the time rocked up to me, and he walks up and big smile on his face and he goes, "Dan, you got the visa." And I was like, that's huge.
Wow.
That is massive. And I must admit, it was kind of so naive of me to think that it was a sure thing, and it wasn't a sure thing. My manager works so hard to get to where it is, and then you think you just hear, right, and you hear people in the stories of having to go back home as a result of visa issues. So I'm blessed to be in the position I am today, and I know we worked hard. We worked so hard to prove it, but also we know that some people also work really hard and unfortunately don't get the same thing. But yeah, so effectively all that allowed me to get to the US, got a book deal, got a TV deal, started out here in, I think it was 2016, I believe. I think. Yeah, 2016. So I've been here for a bit over 5 years now. I
love that. And then we're going to get into that too, with just everything you're doing, because the visa you're on, you can do all the things. You're you're extraordinary. You can do so many things that you want to do. But I just want to go into that mindset area there, because one of the things I feel like personally, going through a visa journey, one of the constant questions that I got asked is because it's hard. If you actually go and poke at it on the journey of it, we can paint the picture, but then when you start realizing, oh my God, I need to invest this much, I need to get this attorney, I need to do all this paperwork, it's a lot of work. And it's not it's not for anyone who wants to maybe do it. It's you're 100% all in, I'm doing it because it's that much work.
Yeah.
What was the mindset? I know it was 5 years ago, but if you can go back to the mindset in your head of you have to have that certainty in your head that you're going to go through all this, and you have what it takes to get it. Because that's what I had during my journey. It's I didn't let those voices come in my head, but love, family, loved ones, they would say but what if you don't get it? And I would just mute it. I'd be there's no such thing. I'm getting, I was so confident, because I'm very big on affirming what you want, and you only can speak positivity. Yeah. So could you go back to what was the mental framework?
Yeah, I actually remember it. And I remember it because I think, again, back to that naivety, the things that I'd done and was successful at, it was no question. Creating your, self-publishing a cookbook and selling thousands of copies, I didn't think I'd send thousands and thousands, but self-publishing a book, I was okay, I'm going to do this. And it's you, at that age particularly, I was just I'm going to do this, going to learn. If I make a mistake, sweet, whatever. But I'm still going to sell all the books that I've made, right?
Yeah.
And the same principles kind of applied throughout everything that I've done. It's even here, I get here, didn't know anyone. I'm going to make a restaurant. Here we are in a restaurant. Inside the restaurant, I will build a studio kitchen. We're in the studio kitchen. Yeah. I want to launch a podcast. I'm the kind of person that if I really know I'm going to do something, I'm going to say it and do it. And so I know there's a lot of things out of my control at the time, but I kind of always felt that there was going to be some way that I was going to get to America. I always wanted to, watching all these movies Remember the Titans, all these American Pie movies and the college life and all these kind of things that my brothers and I used to love. But, I've always fascinated by truly impacting the world. And people say I have a very infectious personality, and it's drawn to. And so, and it's just natural who I am. I'm excited by things that I really want to have an impact on. Food is an unbelievable, universal language. And so if I felt I was, at the time, my headspace was not doubt. If I was to answer your question, there was no doubt. It wasn't a question. It was more of a case of how, as opposed to, what if that makes sense.
Yeah. Where do you think that stemmed from?
Good question.
Did you have any, we're going to go, I know future, you have a lot of more like routines, but that then, did you have any like mental frameworks, mentors, books, anything?
Yeah, I have one mentor, and I still have him today. His name's Dale Beaumont, an Aussie, and he's become a very good friend of mine. He's someone who self-published books at a very young age too, and he was like telling me what to do, and you hear this so many times over. I'm just like, a little exercise for everyone right now. Think of all the people in your life that truly are. Like pick 3 people in your life right now as you listen to this podcast that would have a profound impact on the way that you want to live your life. Not that like they influence you in a way that makes you do things, but like how that lift up your ability to do something. And there's a massive difference. And so like, I'm very stoked that people around me support my message as opposed to me following their message and then putting it into mine. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think the people I've always surrounded myself with, interesting people, but like my mentor is not someone he did his own thing and then he just told me gave me advice on what to do. I actually remember it. I rocked into his office and I'm like, how do I self-publish a book? And he said, you need this, this, and this. And that's pretty much all he said. So I came back, I think it was 5 weeks later with everything. And he goes, oh, okay, so you're actually a doer like me. And it's kind of like a test. That was a Mr. Miyagi thing for sure. And then, so I executed it. And it's just like, I think I've always had that keenness. If I'm really passionate, like I'm super passionate about things, I'm going to do it. And so I've had mentors who have been those kind of people. My brothers are people that, that haven't done anything in this world. They're like, successful in their own right, but they're people that help guide me and keep me narrow and straight. And my family are the same people. And all my mates, like all my mates in New York City are down to earth people. And I truly believe that, surrounding yourself with people who lift up your message, or allow you to lift up your own message is key.
I'm so big on this. Like that's all I post about on the Coffee and a Good Vibe Instagram is like your environment is everything, the content you consume, the people you are around, because that determines your belief system, your 100%. Reality, because that's like the scripts running in your head when you're listening to negativity. Yeah. And even if you're not like in that physical environment, it's like there's podcasts like The Epic Table, right? Like you can put it in your ears, you can hear these like affirming words and wisdom and everything's like free. Like there's books, there's mentors that are there. I know there's like paid mentorship, but there's so many resources out there that I think like, I always say like, if you're listening to this, I commend you because it's like, you're taking that step and it's almost like a domino, like your whole journey. Like you did the book, you started like the session of the books and then it kind of dominoed into 3 books because you became so successful with it. And I feel like that's just like the big like ethos is what I'm like here, like mission and around it. It's like, you just have to take the action and believe. And then it kind of, your whole journey seems like it kept evolving. Yeah. Just believing and taking action.
100%. Like, if you're going to do something, like if you really want to do something, you'll do it. I'm a big believer in that. Like you hear people say they want to do something, there's want and they actually do. And I'm not saying that everyone can just all of a sudden quit their job and, do what they want to do right now. I'm not asking you to do that, but I'm just saying there's like, if you want to learn a language, you say, I want to learn another language, go sign up and do it, and there's so many things in this world where people continue to do the what if, as opposed to the do.
Oh, I love that.
And yeah, it's just huge for me. And it's the same thing. Like essentially when I always known, and I think this is the most fortunate thing I've had in my career, my profession, in my life. I know what my North Star is. And I knew at a young age what my North Star was. And so for me, if I ever started to slightly deviate, I knew how to draw myself back in because it wasn't my North Star. I also knew that as new platforms came in, how was I going to take my message and just keep it on that platform in a way that's unique, but still that North Star? And that's a tough one because not everyone knows what they want to do all the time. Yeah. People say they want to be entrepreneurs, but in what? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So that was always huge for me.
Do you have a why? Like one mission statement of your why? Because I always say like, I know you're so passionate and there's clearly like a big driver and ethos you're fulfilling for your life. Like what's Dan Churchill's like legacy statement or mission on this earth?
Yeah, look, if we talked about this before, we actually, as we're doing the website now, we went through this exercise But I think honestly, like the why do I do what I do is like I get my currency, my why is when I get feedback from people on guests that I've had on the podcast about how that impacted them. I just had one of my closest friends, reveal her story around her eating disorder. And so she's opened up and so many people have reached out saying, oh my gosh, I cannot tell you how much this made a difference to me. So it's like things like that. There's like cooking recipes and helping people truly understand the power of what bringing people together through food is. I've had guys propose to their girlfriends over the recipes that I've helped them create. So truly, like my why is that food to me is far greater than the nutrition it provides.
Wow.
And I want to every single day work towards finding a way that I can have it used to really have a true happy impact on people's lives. I'm blessed to be in the position I am, but that's my why.
I love that. It's so powerful. And it's serving and scaling so abundantly. It's incredible. Going back a little bit into the New York journey and building the brand that you have. I know people are probably wondering maybe two things too. So you chose New York, big city.
Huge
Just
city.
like I chose LA. It's like big city, like big cities have like sharks. We're in a Shark Tank. We didn't choose I actually shouldn't name drop a state. I don't want to
You're right.
But it's just we didn't choose a small chillin' state. You chose the biggest city. So what moving out here, not knowing a soul. How did you start building your network and your brand? And I know when you were in Aussie, you're huge. You're the author, you're the successful young kid who's done so many things. And then you moved to this city where no one knows who you are. So, and I know people like you and we thrive. I thrive in those kind of environments because it's a challenge and I love it.
Yeah.
But how someone listening probably how did you do it?
Yeah, look.
And you run with an amazing circle. You guys can even see through your podcast, your network on social media. Yeah, you have an amazing group of friends.
I am just, I definitely think we have a good human policy. I really mean that. It's having friends and people in your life who are just good humans is not hard. But believe me, particularly in New York City, you can have a lot of people out there that want to use you for certain things. And I learned the hard way. I was 100% used in a lot of situations and didn't know it until experiencing it. So anytime I have people come to this place and even new people work at the restaurant and young people, I just kind of want to make them know that you'll know who your true friends are and you'll have to almost unfortunately experience it firsthand to really recognize it. But I think for me is again, going back to that, do what I love. I love coffee. So I'd be at Aussie cafe shops and I love exercise and I'd eventually start getting these roles and opportunities to do certain things that would get me on, either in athletic environments or being able to hang out with people. And so like-mindedness is, it's not something you can fake, right? If you're not into something, for example, there'd be times where people want to hang out just because you have an Instagram following, but it was really fake. You didn't actually have anything in common and you do it to have a photo taken together and cross over each other's audiences. And really over time, you probably lose the followers that they brought or vice versa based on the fact that you have nothing in commmen. And that's totally fine.
Genuine, yeah.
Yeah. It's that's where audiences, people listening in now, it's everyone knows everything about you. And
even with the podcast, it's the guests I have on, I love them.
Yeah. Exactly. You want to champion them.
I get people who reach out for the podcast and I'm just this is so not genuine. You get an email pitch. Oh. I choose everyone I put on, you know?
Yeah, it's
I'm so humbled though. Any pitch I get. I'm always humbled. I'm this is awesome. But then it's just the same thing. It's you want it to be so genuine that
100%.
It's an hour in someone's ear.
You want to, and you as a host, when you have a connection and when you won't. And so you got to make sure that's because your audience knows that. But effectively, I started just being active in terms of both physically and hanging out with people who are just, who are actually either new from Australia or who are Americans and were like-minded. I love sport. I love everything activity. I love cooking. So two things that really aren't too much trouble to connect with people over. So whether we're talking about NFL and watching sports somewhere at a bar, whatever it was, it wasn't too. Being an Aussie in New York City, for some reason we're likable, right? I'll take it. I'll absolutely take it. But I think over time I just kind of made sure that once I learnt my mistakes with true friends and realizing who they are, I just made sure that the people who are my true friends, I looked after them and they looked after me and vice versa.
And your vibe attracts your tribe. I always say that. So like it just compounds.
100%.
Once you meet, like, especially for my LA journey, it's like once I went through the beginning of like the hard, what I'm really grateful for. It's like those relationships that didn't serve. I learned so much.
Yep.
But then you meet good people and then it compounds from there.
100%.
I got to ask you,
Yeah.
Dan's biggest tips for building personal brand, because your brand is the thing I love about your brand, and a lot of people listening, you got to check out your Instagram because it shows like everything. But the thing I love about it is like, it's so multifaceted.
Sure.
Because you're into cooking, but you're also super into the physical, the fitness, nutrition, your personal life, your restaurant, the TV stuff, the books. Like you have so many pillars, but that's the beauty of a personal brand. It's like you can be multifaceted. So how best tips for like scaling a personal brand?
So scaling it, firstly, everyone has a personal brand, whether it's prolific, like in the sense that you're a profile, or you not. Like if you go in for an interview and it's for any job, you still have a personal brand. So this applies to everybody. I think if you are trying to scale your personal brand, just be aware it takes a lot of consistency and long, hard work. And we'll get into some tips in a second, but just know it's dedication and you're with you for the rest of your life. So do it for the rest of your life. Go for the hard yards. So here's what I would say. First and foremost, if people to come to any page or meet you, what are you doing to support them? What's the like, oh, I'm going to hang out with Dan. I'm going to see Dan on his website. What is Dan doing for me? Because I'm interested to follow him. So for example, my thing is I help people find the right foods that help them perform optimally. And so then every facet that I do around media is a way of creating awareness for that, right? So everything that I do is like essentially I'm a chef, and I'm all about creating recipes and content and, studies, like clinical studies that help people understand what's right for them, right? So then you've got the podcast, the TV, the Instagram, all that kind of stuff that helps send that message. But how do you do this from the start? So pick one thing, all right, that you truly want people to, know you for. As I said before, it was about me. All about helping people find the right foods that help them move, perform, be happy optimally, all that kind of stuff. So again, you've got platforms for that to go on. You've got a website, TV, Instagram, social media platforms, podcast. But that's my one thing. The biggest thing though is number one, put out content. Number two, be consistent with your content. 3, optimize your content through SEO and rinse and repeat. And then also the fourth one is learn to adapt.
Yes, that's so...
So like Instagram was not the same 10 years ago or even 9 years ago when it was only one image. You can only put one image on. Now you've got carousels, you've got IGTV,
Reels.
You've got reels, stories. Like learn to adapt and continue to talk to your audience. So again, put out content, be consistent with it, optimize your content, adapt. And I'd also say analyze and respond, because ultimately, between those 5 things, if you're not actually even analyzing your content to know what's working, then you won't. You may be surprised what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, because you're getting all this feedback from your audience, and you can like keep creating different things that are going to further serve. Tip 1, right? Like
Tip 1.
Giving them the value, and then even with advancing like your new website that at this time, guys, the link is in the show notes. It's launched.
Appreciate it.
And you have like a course, right? It's like someone might be like, oh, I want to launch a course, but you've been nurturing your audience for years and putting out all this content that now you're going to have a course that's going to meet and serve these needs and desires of people. And it's like, this course is going to sell because you've been rinsing and repeating for so long,
100%,
right?
100%.
I love that. Shifting gears into the food. Okay,
nice.
Let's go into food. So Charley St, how did that come about? The concept, explain it. I am obsessed. I'm so excited. I'm here for another week. I'm going to be coming here and posting it up. When I got here, people are like working. It's such a good vibe.
It's a great vibe.
So tell us about Charley St. Also, where location, so people listening when they come to New York.
So we are specifically 41 Kenmare Street. We're in a place called Nolita. It's a suburb, like all parts of New York City. That has got a great little purpose behind it. So Nolita stands for North of Little Italy.
Oh.
All right. You know what Soho stands for?
Yeah. What's
Soho, south of Houston.
Oh.
And then you got NoHo, which is north of Houston. You know what Tribeca stands for? Triangle Beneath Canal.
This is like a New York crash course right
100%. now. I'll fully open up for you. Dumbo, down under the Manhattan Bridge overpass.
Wow.
Yeah. So you got all these little acronyms and things it stands for.
Wow, I love that.
So anyway, the restaurant of Charley Street, Aussie cafe / restaurant. We opened up 2018, and it was pretty much. It initially started as people asking me, Dan, where can I eat your food that you keep putting about?
Because they don't want to cook it, right?
They're like, they keep seeing all these recipes and like, Dan, I want to eat the food you keep talking about. And so I'm like, sweet. So I clearly got to do a restaurant. So within a space of like a year and a half of that, which is relatively quick to do, raise money, build a team, find a location, build out the space, get that team going, get it up and running. We had a restaurant called Charley St. Wow. And it is like anything, adapted and evolved over time. So what it is today is definitely not what it wasn't, when we first opened. And obviously COVID was a massive eye-opening experience for the team. So yeah, we've had to truly adapt like every restaurant has always, irrespective of COVID. But now you see firsthand for yourself. We've got a pretty awesome community of people upstairs and it's great vibes.
Yeah, you attract in all the best energy with Charley St. Like, what's the mission, vision? Any like business plans to keep innovating with the restaurant?
100%. So like we initially started as like the best way to put it, and the best way I think people, particularly from America, can understand is we started as like the Australian version of Sweet Green. So finding ways to be more of a breakfast crowd, breakfast and lunch.
People love breakfast the whole
exactly.
time.
So that was our initial thing, right? We love what the guys at Sweet Green had done. I'm actually friends with one of the founders, and he was like, just seeing what they'd done was super impressive. Mm-hmm. However, as you learn to adapt, you see that there's other ways you can have a true impact. And so we still want to scale, maybe definitely not that much, but we're going to be releasing a product very shortly. Actually, it's going to be out right now. Yeah, sweet. Yeah. So it's going to be out. And this product, if you haven't already seen it, is called Charley Street's Bolognese and Charley Street's Chorizo. Now, these two products, proud to say it, are made entirely out of whole food plants. So like they're not synthetically created. They're not going through any huge processes like some of the other competitors. So our point of difference is actually good for the environment and good for you, not just good for the environment.
I love that.
And so everything that we do at Charley Street's always been around, firstly providing a pretty cool Aussie cafe experience like people love.
Yeah, I love that.
But second to it is we want to have people eat more plants, and they don't have to be plant-based. But I'm sure everyone listening here is, you're a very healthy, young, aspiring individual. And so people see that plants are good for you, and they want to find a tasty way to do it. And it's not that they don't want to do it, irrespective of eating meat or not. They just want to eat more plants. So these products are simply there to help people eat more plants. That's what we want to do.
That's amazing. I love that. That's so inspiring too, because anyone like looking at you and like the lifestyle you live, I feel like with fitness, a lot of people, including myself, I used to do fitness competitions like 17 to 21. And it's like I was on just like chicken and fish and like meat, red meat even, because like for lifting weights and just like the protein, the macros, like it changed my whole mindset with food. Yes, there was like so many benefits of like learning about macros and everything at a young age, but then also viewing food as like I had such a different relationship from that age, like viewing food like that for years. And now it's like viewing it from this angle. I think it's so important, and it's so nice to see people in the fitness space, because we're gonna get into that. I want to hear your routines, but like how active you are and like how you fuel yourself. Because someone watching is like, I want to look like Dan, and Dan eats plants too, versus like this other mindset of like, you have to eat chicken and broccoli all day long to look like that. Yeah, like I'm a chef, and so food's always never been about, and particularly like the Italian roots for me and my family, it's always been about the benefit of that. I remember saying before, it's like irrespective of the nutritional benefits, it should always be around the happiness it brings you. I had a podcast with a couple of people actually, one with a guy called Nick Bear, and I was talking to him about this, and we're talking about the importance of why you shouldn't count calories, and you should base it around, your athletic performance. So essentially eat for performance and not aesthetics.
There's an IGTV on my Instagram.
That.
Yeah,
if you
check out my Instagram, there's an IGTV on. We talk about that. So, and it was a great podcast because we like how much people's perspective on life changed once they started to eat for performance and not aesthetics was dramatic. Because you don't only just get the nutritional benefits, you also get the wonderful benefits around your hormones. And I think that was something that people realized when they're putting so much pressure, like for yourself, like when you're doing macros, you are stressed. Like I need to get to the Pacific gram.
I'm not hungry, but I have to eat this meal, or vice versa. I'm starving and I have no macros.
That's a terrible way to think about food. And so we just simply change that. We want to make sure people eat for performance, where it's like if you feel like you really need it, and that's part of what my course is about, is helping people truly understand what works for them.
Yeah, I love that. That's so needed in this world. I'm excited for that. Do you have any like ethos around, or like principles or food? I know it's like rules, but like a way of life that I think you kind of like went on it, but you know how like some people are like, I know this is not you, keto only, or only eat plants, or paleo. Do you have any of those? Or like intermittent fasting, or like anything that you like stick to?
Yeah, like, okay, so here's
Oh, I know also, I've learned already from you.
What's that?
It's personal. It's not always the same forever. I've already learned this, soaked it up from you.
So you've been doing your research. But effectively, fact number one is there's this term called bio-individuality. All right, so bio-individuality is for you to look at yourself as an individual that is truly unique, right? No one else is like you. Now, one, you have your DNA. And even if you're a twin, you actually have the same DNA, specifically to like, you know, identical twins. But as we've learned through all the gut health stuff we've been listening to, if you have your gut microbiome against your DNA, you are so different. Absolutely so different. And so that's why you as an individual cannot pertain yourself to be directed at one particular meal type, setting, keto, everything like this. You have to work out what's right for you. So on one end, like you can do that through just subjective means. Like you can do everything from assessing how you feel, how you felt after a meal, how you feel after a day. Are you going to the bathroom regularly? Are you not? Is it consistent? We talked about this a lot with an Australian gut health expert actually in the UK. And so those are very subjective means, which is awesome. You can do other things like there's I work with this company called Zoe, and Zoe is like a gut health testing kit.
So cool.
So it tests your gut.
We're all about gut health on this podcast.
Yes. If you want to like know specifics, you essentially go to Zoe and you go, you've got your gut health tests, and then you do your blood work, and they also do your glucose, and they're able to assess 3 biomarkers and spit out like this information telling you what you're deficient in.
Wow.
So it's pretty amazing. Then I provide you the recipes, effectively what's right for you. But yeah, so my philosophy around food, firstly, number one, bio-individuality. Look at yourself as an individual. Just because it works for me doesn't mean the same thing's going to work for you. Number two, everyone's going to be, irrespective, I guarantee it, needing to eat more plants. It doesn't matter if you eat red meat, chicken, fish, or you're plant-based. People forget that plants are the biggest deficiency that we have in particularly diversity, the amount of plants we are having. So that's my thing, is like to eat more color. It's the best way to do it. So at the end of the week, have a think about how many different colors you consume during the week. If you need to increase your reds, greens, oranges, whatever it is, go for it. And then number 3, protein. Now, there's such a subjective way of looking at this. My philosophy on protein is, should you eat, firstly, the type of protein. This is getting into a bit nitty gritty, so I don't know how I'll try to like make it simple, but the biggest issue people find about eating plants only is that they feel they're not going to get enough to support their muscle growth, and they're going to get smaller. If you need to see a plant-based individual who is shredded big to set your tone, there's a guy called Simon Hill from Plant Proof. Big dude, ripped, one of my mates.
One of my friends is like that too. Yeah. Ripped and plant-based.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's essentially more around like the amount or the type of amino acid profile, because you've got incomplete, you've got complete proteins, and that's a really bad, I guess, way of grouping them, because incomplete doesn't mean bad, it just means it doesn't have all the amino acids.
Totally.
Right? You can have a lot of the existing amount of amino acids in incomplete, so like, you know, it just won't have all of them. But effectively my rule is work out what works for you, eat more color, and then when it comes to protein, you know, choose again what works for you, but don't feel like you can't eat plants to sufficiently get enough protein into your week and day.
I love that. You're all with the tips. You got all the value. I love it. I hope so. I got even my favorite part of like the podcast is when I can ask this. And especially for you, it's like I'm really excited to go in on this because you're a podcast host. So the biggest blessing I feel like with being a podcast host is selfishly, we become better listeners. So we're like active listeners, but you get to soak up all the knowledge like so many times because editing and like real time. So you probably are given all these like tools in your toolkit, but like what is Dan's routine non-negotiable? I know you have like a good morning routine. Could you share your morning routine?
Yeah, of course. Like it continues to change based on like, I have a puppy now, Maverick. Aww. He's a little legend, but Maverick now needs to get walked in the morning, which is totally fine. It just means that my typical routine of getting up early and reading my book, no longer exists because when I get up in the morning, all he wants to do is like bro down and like, you know.
What time is that too?
Around 6, bit before 6, like 5:30, 6 o'clock. And so like I'll get out of bed, I'll get out into the living room and the guy's like, I call him the wiggle butt because he got like his butt like wiggles when he wags his tail and it's like, it wiggles it back and forward and it's really awesome. Anyway, so he jumps off on the couch and I'm sitting there with my coffee. And I'm just like, I'm trying to read this book and he's just tapping me. He scrapes me. Yeah, he's like, bro, come on, I want to hang. So I'm like, fuck, all right, sweet. So now what I do is I take Mav for a walk early, but I listen to audiobooks.
Love that.
So I take him for a walk, we hang out, he gets his bro time in.
How long? We like details.
Oh, sweet, yeah. So like say 6, depending. I'm training for half Ironman right now and also the marathon. Wow. So I'd say take him out of bed at 5:45, go by like 6:45, I'm done, and the gym's pretty close. So either hit the gym, I'm probably in the gym specifically 2 to 3 times a week doing just resistance training. But other days I try to be on the bike or running by 7 at the latest. If I'm doing the swim's easy because I can do an hour of like 40 minutes of that and I'm absolutely happy with that. It's more or less I have to be at work at the latest by 8:30. So I guess to sizzle all together, but before 8:30, I've walked Mav for a solid 45. I've listened to a book at the same time. I have had my coffee, which is really important, and then I've gone to the gym or I've done sort of exercise outside, and then I've come home, showered, and I'm at work on the like 8:30 is a non-negotiable.
I love that. And do you do the workout fasted?
Yeah, so typically I do. It depends. Like again, listen to my body. So with my Epic Table community on my podcast, every first Monday to Friday of the month we fast. So we do a 16-hour fast, 8-hour eating window. So the first Monday to Friday every month. So for example, we have the July fast. Wow. We have the and it's like a reset. Fast. Yeah, it's a reset. It's like a great way as a community to do it all together. And you know, I typically do black coffee beforehand if I know I'm about to go for a big, long, like 2-hour effort on the bike and a swim and a run. I definitely have like a banana or, or something beforehand. Yeah. But it also depends. Like I may have woken up really hungry based on a huge workout the day before. And if I'm not fasting, I go, my body needs food. So I'm like, sweet, I'm going to go smash an oatmeal or something like that. So again, I think the biggest philosophy I live by is listening to my body. Like I listen to my gut. I really do. And my gut tells me so much about things. Like if I wake up in the morning and I'm really hungry, I'm like, guess what? I'm going to feed it because I know the day that I have, like when I just work, if I'm chefing at the restaurant, I burn so many calories and I lose so much weight.
Yeah, because you're active all day long. Active
all day. And then you work out and you don't realize like, whoa, I've done like 6,500, 7,000 calories today.
I love that. And I love that you say this a lot and you enforce it because there's so many people online who are in the fitness health space, nutrition space, and they preach their diet as 100%. Like the way, and then people do it and maybe they don't have the same success and then they lose motivation to even try it or like to stay on track or like they think like, oh, I can never achieve the body composition of my dreams because that diet didn't work. But it's like that's why I love what you're preaching and how. So I know people are gonna have to like figure out join your course so they can like understand how they can strengthen that intuition. But any like tips for anyone who's looking to start their journey of like not even just looking their best, feeling their best, because that's going to determine everything, right? How you feel is going to determine how you show up to the day.
Yeah, 100%. I think, look, you and I can tell people to go do certain habits and routines.
Yeah.
But it's not going to matter until within themselves they truly want to get it going. You know, like ultimately you want like some sort of intrinsic motivation to get you going. You want to be truly, you know, inspired from within to go do something.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting for me is like, I can tell you that you can figure it out yourself and you have all these courses and opportunities to do that. But first and foremost, find out what really lights you up. What inspires you to really is it your kids? Is it the fact that you always wanted to run a certain marathon? Or is it that you just want to be less tired? Like, what is it? And figure out that why. Then follow some people that you're inspired by who have credible information. Not just like information they've just posted about, like credible information that's been, you know, clinically sourced. And I think that's so key because there's a lot of stuff out there, unfortunately.
Yeah, but then they have the pleasure of hearing this and they have like the right resources to go to. And I just want to thank you and honor you so much for your time and all the value you shared. I know the audience is so grateful and I would love for you to plug away. Like we'll have it all in the show notes, but plug it all. Where's the best place to find you? Where are you most active? I know we heard the tips.
Yeah.
So give us those.
Okay, so best place to find me is Instagram. So Dan_Churchill. You see my head in chef whites and smiling like a kid, which is great. So there's Instagram, and then you've got my website, which is where you find all information on courses.
The new website.
.com. That's it. If you want to listen to a podcast that is all the stuff we've kind of been at a foundation level we've been talking about today, it's called The Epic Table. You can put in Spotify or podcasts on Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts, just go Dan Churchill. You'll also find on there. So hit subscribe and of course, make sure you leave a review on this podcast as well because it works. Like 5-star review and write a comment too because we love that, right?
Love it. Love it always. Thank you guys. Help me do this call to actions on the podcast. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, and mate. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We will see you in the next one.